Welcome to our online Sunday experience and our September teaching series, How to Church, Healing the Sick, Raising the Dead, and Loving Thy Neighborhood. It's a practical 3-week series about how to follow Jesus together during a worldwide pandemic. The message you're about to watch was recorded live, and we hope that it will inspire you to join God in the renewal of all things.
And so, we began our new season with a new teaching series titled, How to Church, Healing the Sick, Raising the Dead, and Loving Thy Neighborhood. We thought as a leadership team, it might be good to start with a reminder or a little bit of a reset of how we church. That is, how we follow Jesus together, particularly through a worldwide pandemic. Because some things have changed drastically, and other things haven't changed at all. So this morning we're going to roll into Matthew chapter 10, and we're going to talk a little bit about what it means to carry on when you feel like quitting. And then we're going to talk a little bit about what it means to partner with people that you have deep disagreements with. And finally, we're going to see what tarantulas can teach us about discipleship in the way of Jesus. Yeah, you're going to love it. And then after that, I'm going to invite Kurt up right at the end for the last 5 minutes or so, and we're going to talk about practical ways that we can bring these ideas and truths to life right here in Lakeview Church through this next season. So let's go. Matthew chapter 10, verse 1 says this: Jesus called 12 of his followers and sent them into the ripe fields. He gave them power to kick out the evil spirits and to tenderly care for the bruised and hurt lives. So Jesus assembles his first team to proclaim and also to demonstrate the good news that God is making all things new, that he's fixing everything, that he is healing us and healing this world. And he commissions his agents and he delegates them with his authority. And even though they're a brand new team, they're clearly part of a long-standing tradition of prophets who had done similar work in their own time. Now, different words have been used to describe this group. Sometimes they're called apostles, sometimes they're called messengers or missionaries or emissaries, and sometimes they're even called evangelists. And sometimes that feels like a bit of a dirty word to us, right? It's been abused. And then there's things like the business world has sort of adopted this idea. They talk about brand ambassadors, and some of them push it even farther, like Apple Computers actually call some of their associates Apple evangelists. Weird, right? These are people who can tell you all about Apple and why it's so great, and they can also tell you how to use practically Apple products. So for an Apple evangelist is, let me tell you how great this phone is, and it's also, let me show you how to use this great phone. But for the apostles, it was more like, let me tell you how great Jesus is, and let me show you what it means to live life in the way of Jesus. Now, Jesus isn't slinging tech. Instead, he's commissioning his representatives to carry on his work. And what is the work that he started, that he's asking them to carry on? To kick out evil spirits and to tenderly care for hurt and bruised lives. It's a rallying cry. Come on, let's do this. However, if you've lived long enough to experience hurt or bruised life, if you've ever felt discouraged and disempowered every time you see evil systems oppressing people, if you've ever lived through a worldwide pandemic that's altered your life irrevocably, the first response usually isn't, yeah, let's do this. Let's just face into COVID. So great. That's usually not the response. The usual response is, I'm just so tired of doing this. I don't want to do this anymore. And so Jesus says to his first disciples and to you and I this morning, carry on. Keep going. Carry on what I started. Tell people that I'm making all things new. Then show people what it looks like practically. Give them the tools they need to carry on when all they feel like doing is giving up. And that, my friends, is how we church. At least it's one of the ways. Recognizing that, like the first disciples, we have been commissioned to show and tell who Jesus is, what Jesus has done, what Jesus is doing. And oftentimes, that means carrying on when we'd much rather quit. Here's the thing, friends, that you don't have to do this alone. In fact, you can't. You want to know why? Because Christianity is not a solo endeavor. And so Jesus rallies a team. This is the list of the 12 he sent. Simon, they called him Peter or Rock, Andrew, his brother, James, Zebedee's son, John, his brother, Philip, Bartholomew, Thomas, Matthew the tax man, James the son of Alphaeus, Thaddeus, Simon the Canaanite, which, if you were part of our Joseph series, how crazy is it that a Canaanite is part of Jesus' first crew? Crazy, right? And then Judas Iscariot, who later turned on him. When I see this list, you know what I think? Worst team ever. Fire the HR department, or whoever cast this TV show has done a terrible job. This is not an ideal setup, and I will tell you why. This team is made up of the following. Ready? Some are family, some are enemies. Some are staunch conservatives, some are liberal extremists. Some are capitalists, some are socialists, some are educated, some are uneducated, some are prone to doubt, and others are prone to betrayal. And in the past, we've spent time talking about the dysfunctional properties of this team, but today I just want to note that it's weird how Jesus seems to put people together that usually don't go together. If Jesus had a publicist, they would spin this by saying, Jesus has put together a diverse team. You and I know better. These guys don't like each other. And why? Because they have deep disagreements, philosophical worldview disagreements with each other. So how are they supposed to be on mission together? How can you be in partnership with someone that you fundamentally disagree with? Maybe this article might help us begin to wrap our heads around it. Maybe you caught it. It was in the paper this week. A down on his luck speed enthusiast cursed with a too slow Lamborghini is soliciting the public for donations so he can afford to make his car faster. Johnny Merdita just recently, quote, completely emptied his bank account to buy his dream car, a 2015 Lamborghini Huracan, according to his GoFundMe profile. It was only after shelling out hundreds of thousands of dollars for the Italian supercar, though, that poor Johnny found out it just wasn't fast enough. But thankfully, you can help. Merdita just needs another $100,000 to install an underground racing turbocharger kit on his Lambo to take it to 1,400 wheel horsepower. He simply can't make do with the stock engine's 610 horsepower at the crank. And if that doesn't break your heart, we don't know what to say. How can you resist opening up your wallet to help a man who cannot afford to turbocharge his Lamborghini? Can you imagine how hard it must be for him to get through the day knowing that he's, quote, gapped left and right? You'd really have to be a heartless Grinch not to donate to this GoFundMe. A cause like this is something the whole community can get behind. He's offering to give rides to donors at any time, like an Uber, but in a slow Lamborghini. Can you imagine a more thoughtful way to give back? Please help Johnny. His Lamborghini will need a minimum of 1,400 wheel horsepower to effortlessly gap Ferraris and Audis, just like his Porsche used to. Otherwise, he'll probably have to scrap the car, and nobody wants to say that. So, what do you say? Can you spare a few dimes to give Johnny a boost? I like what the author did there. You get it? A boost? You're like boosting his campaign, but you're also turbo boosting the car. You didn't get that? It's really funny. It's kind of a good little last line. Here's the car in question, a 2015 Huracan. Man, does that look slow or what? Whoa, boring. Let me say something. Johnny is an idiot. I have no compassion for Johnny. I don't think I like Johnny. There's no way that I'm giving Johnny a dime. You better not give Johnny a dime. Johnny's priorities are messed up. Johnny does not need 1,400 horsepower. Nobody needs 1,400 horsepower. That includes you, Chris. Johnny is not my kind of person, and I don't think Johnny and I would get along, though I would love a ride in the Lambo. Maybe you feel the same way I do about Johnny. Because the Johnny types stir certain feelings in us, right? Feelings that make us want to avoid the Johnnies, judge the Johnnies, write off the Johnnies. And yet, Jesus pulls together a team of Johnnies that continues until this day. So how can we be in partnership with one another? How can we be unified and on mission when we're in deep disagreement and the only people to work with are a bunch of Johnnies? Like the first disciples, some of us are family. Some of us feel like enemies. Some of us are conservatives. Some of us are liberals. Some of us are capitalists. Some of us are socialists. Some of us are educated. Some of us are uneducated. Some of us are prone to doubt, and some of us are prone to betrayal. And yet, Jesus sees fit to pull every Johnny he can together because there is something very special. There is something that is unique about being unified and on mission together with others that you don't fully agree with, and with others that you may not like, and with others that may not like you. Who else, my friends, can do that? That is how to church. We don't have to agree on everything. And that's okay. Because the mission of Jesus isn't to make cookie-cutter Christians. Instead, the church becomes the pilot project for the way that the day where things will ultimately be. It's the way it is now is what God is aiming for, is what I'm trying to get out of my mouth here. Diverse people from different walks, with different experiences, with different wants and goals and needs, coming together to do what? To kick out evil spirits and to tenderly care for the bruised and hurt lives. What an amazing way to show and tell about Jesus' plan to renew this whole world. Who else but the church is able to rally Johnnies in this way, especially now in this political and social climate where all of us sort of feel polarized, right? Everyone does a really tough job of really differentiating themselves from those that they don't agree with. So what a counterculture play the church is. What an amazing organism we are. And how great is it that Jesus offers us this perfect alternative to the broken way that our world handles disagreements and differences. And so, Jesus sent his 12 harvest hands out with this charge. Don't begin by traveling to some far-off place to convert unbelievers, and don't try to be dramatic by tackling some public enemy. Go to the lost, confused people right here in the neighborhood. Tell them that the kingdom is here. Bring health to the sick, raise the dead, touch the untouchables, kick out the demons. You have been treated generously, so live generously. I don't know about you, but I love this. I love this because I feel like I could just get behind it. Don't be dramatic. Go to those who are close to you. Do the Jesus show and tell. This feels so doable. This feels so right. In at least the first couple of verses, because then it gets hairy. Heal the sick? Raise the dead? Sorry, what did you say? Touch the untouchable? Kick out demons? I mean, it's inspiring. I want to see that. I really do want to be a part of it. But how? How do you even unlock that level of faith and discipleship? And how do we muster the courage to follow Jesus in this way when moments requiring courage come so unexpectedly. To help us understand that, maybe a study in tarantulas and exposure therapy can help us out. This, if you didn't know, is a tarantula. How are we all feeling here? Everyone's okay? Anyone a bit queasy? Close your eyes, maybe if it's too much for you. Here's how the study went. They collected 10 participants who were deathly afraid of spiders. And at the beginning of their study and experiment, the closest these people could get to the tarantula in a terrarium was 10 feet away. That's as close as they felt comfortable in getting to this spider. Yet over the course of the experiment, they were asked to practice courage in 14 graduated steps and to repeat those steps as they felt comfortable. Let me just read off some of the steps to you. First of all, stand 5 feet between you and a tarantula and a terrarium. How many of you could do that? 5 feet in the terrarium? Look at you, brave souls. Brave, brave souls. Amazing. Another one was put your palm on an object that's close to the tarantula. So you're holding something, but you're not holding the tarantula. How many of you could do that? You could be still close. You're holding it. Good for you. Well done. Well done. Here's another one. Direct the tarantula's movements with a small paintbrush 5 times. How many of you could do that? Oh man, you guys are real brave people. What about this one? Let the tarantula walk over your gloved hand. How many would do that? Liars. No way. I'm not doing that. No, I'm not touching that thing. So they take these 14 steps. One would build upon the other. And the very last step would be allow this big, fat, hairy spider just to walk around your ungloved hand. Now, how many of you would allow that? Stop lying to me in church. Stop it. Now, let me ask you the next question. How long do you think it took to get those people to do all 14 steps? To go from, I can only be 10 feet, within 10 feet of that spider, to allowing it to walk on your hand. Just put like a number in your mind. Just make a guess. Is it days? Is it weeks? Is it months? Got your number? Ready for this? How about 2 hours? That was the average time it took to complete this final step. Remember, these were people who wouldn't get within 10 feet of this spider in a terrarium a short while earlier. And what's even more inspiring is that 6 months after this experiment, they were still able to handle spiders. Now, is this some kind of magic or witchcraft? No, it's not. What this is actually about is knowledge of how to act in the moment. And one of the researchers described it as preloading responses, so that in the moment, someone could act quickly and without deliberation. It's a combination of knowing what's right, and then practicing what's right, and then doing what's right when the opportunity presents itself. Here's a line directly from the study. These are not anomalies. They are probabilities. They can be foreseen and fought just as an athlete practices his or her moves to commit them to muscle memory. The point here is to make voicing our values the default position. And if you're wondering what any of this has to do with how we church, I think it's this. Discipleship in the way of Jesus is an act of muscle memory. It's a preloaded default position. It is something that we practice, something that we rehearse, something that we train for. It's something that we build on. It's something that is a lifelong pursuit. So are you scared of even the idea? Can you even get within 10 feet of the idea of healing the sick, raising the dead, touching the untouchables, helping kick out demons? Does that make you scared? Does that make your heart beat a little bit? Yeah, me too. I feel the same way. But that's why I hang out with you people. The reason we do this is because I need you and you need me. We are in Fight Club training together. We are preloading responses. We are developing muscle memory so that we know what to do when we're confronted with the sick, with the dying, with those who are untouchable, and with those who are oppressed. And that, my friends, is how we church. Now, to bring that to life in a practical way, I'm going to invite my friend and partner, Kurt, up. And what Kurt is going to help us with here this morning is just kind of figure out how practically we can put these things into play for us as a church. Practically what it means for us to carry on. Practically what it means for us to partner with the Johnnies. Practically what it means for us to develop this muscle memory and insert these preloaded ideas. So home church is the emphasis for that this season. It's one of the places we see that coming to life. So Kurt, I'm going to give you the clicker, I'm going to give you the microphone, and maybe unpack for us, make some connections on how we can practically do church together.
Yeah, I think that's an awesome message, by the way. I think home church, in many ways, I think of just the way we take this kind of an idea of like the essence of church and we just put it into motion together. You know, we recognize that we are a bunch of Johnnies coming from different like walks of life, but it's actually important that we don't just sit in an auditorium, we actually hear from one another. Not creating curated experiences where we're only with people who think and act the same as us, but actually listening to the perspectives of other people who come at this Christian journey from a different angle. And I think that idea of like building our muscle memory, not only in learning in this way, which is so valuable, but also like speaking into real life realities of what I'm facing in my life and how you've walked your life and learning from each other and actually building each other up in those kind of ways. And I think that that muscle memory, that journey of following Jesus, it needs to be a life-on-life learned experience along with this collective experience we have as a church. So we really believe that home church, it's increasingly important to Lakeview. It's been building for many years, and COVID might feel like in many ways the wrong time to try to do home church or maybe join a home church. But I'm actually wondering, like, what if it's actually the perfect time? Because in many ways, COVID, it has pulled us apart. And I believe home church is actually a really profound way that as a church community, we can pull ourselves back together. And of course, like, we need to be safe. We need to have protocol and guidelines and like safety in mind. Of course, there's challenges about like doing something like home church together, but we think we need to push through that and be creative. And so if you're new to our community, home church is something we've talked about for a while. Home church is going to take some different shape in this season, but essentially the idea is it's where a group of us from Lakeview, we come together, we form community, we discover together what it means to follow Jesus, to form deep relationships with God and with one another. So I want to talk about home church with you, and I would love to, like, just if I could grab your attention. And you might be thinking, well, I don't know if this is for me. Well, let me just let you know, this might be for you if you fit one of these categories. If you're new to Lakeview, this is absolutely for you. Because we would love for you to go beyond this setting where we'd love you to get to know relationships and build connections here at Lakeview. So if you're new, I'm definitely talking to you. If you've been around for a couple of years and you've kind of found your way a little bit, but you're sort of still finding your like building those connections, this is also for you. And if you've been here at Lakeview longer than Joe or I, and you've spent many, many, many years here, I'm also talking to you. In fact, I'm especially talking to you, not only because maybe you should really think about home church for your benefit, but actually you should think about being in a home church because we need you in those spaces where we can hear from you and where we can learn from you and we can hear some of your story here at Lakeview. So let me just talk a little bit practically what we're doing in this season. We do have some existing home churches, and they're existing in different ways. Some are going to be gathering in homes as they have previously with certain protocol. Some home churches are going to make a bit of a pivot, and they're going to gather here at Lakeview where we have some room. We can obviously have a bit more space. We can still create a pretty cozy environment, but they're going to be meeting on site. And then some are choosing to continue meeting online via Zoom, as some of us did throughout the summer months. Now, If you're new and you're looking to get connected in, we can help plug you in with an existing home church. Some of those home churches are ready to receive you. But we've also got some opportunities for this season where you can just maybe taste test home church and you could try it out. So we're calling these short burst home churches. So they're going to have a beginning and an end. So you don't feel like you're signed up for something that you've got no way out. You can sign up and for 4 weeks in October, try home church with a group of people and see what it's like. See how it feels. And we're going to have 2 options for these short burst home churches. One is going to be happening here on site at Lakeview in one of our meeting rooms with lots of space, but you can gather in person with a group of people and try home church for the month. Or if you're not really feeling comfortable, or especially if you're watching this at home, we are going to try offering a short burst version of home church online. We don't love Zoom, but you know what? It's the best we can do if we don't feel comfortable meeting in the same room as everybody else. And so if you are interested at all in checking out home church in any form, joining an existing group or trying a short burst, you can head online to lakeviewchurch.com and the register page where you sign up for your Sunday mornings. There's options there to notify us and let us know you'd like to try out a short burst home church. Or if you want to get connected, you can always message myself, Curtis, at lakeviewchurch.com, or Allison, our spiritual formation pastor. She would also love to help you get set up.
Awesome. Thanks, Kurt. And again, the reason I'm sharing this with you is because ideas are great, but putting them into practice is something that we need to do as a church to make it real so that you can actually do the things that Jesus is asking you to do. So with that in mind, I'm going to invite Sarah and the band up. We're going to sing one last song here together, and then we're going to close. So I'm going to ask you kindly to stand, to put on your masks, and let's sing this last song together.